I'm Cliff Schmidt, the founder and executive director. So I just want to take a few minutes to talk about why I care about the work we do, and also give you some examples of how talking books are being used today, and also tell you about some of the accomplishments we've had and where we're going thanks to the support of everyone who's here live, and we know many more people that will be watching this recording. So I'm just going to run you through a few slides to talk about this. So our name Amplio is about amplifying and widening the reach of programs that are otherwise not reaching the most vulnerable people. People are being left behind when talking books aren't available. And the board referred to some of these issues, but I'll mention a few of them. We're talking about people that are being left behind due to illiteracy or not owning any kind of a mobile phone or a lack of electricity or access to the internet. You can see these are not small numbers. And as Revi said in the video, they are mostly affecting women. So this is why Amplio exists, is to empower the world's most vulnerable communities through knowledge sharing. So when we mean most vulnerable, we're talking about these people that are otherwise being left behind. Now, many of you know about the talking book, but I'll just touch on that very briefly and maybe a little refresher for some of you. So it's an audio device that when you push a button, it turns on and speaks to you in your language, in your native dialect. It has hours and hours and hours of content, and I'm going to give you some examples of that. And it can be updated just through a USB port by connecting it to a computer, a laptop, or a smartphone. And when you connect that, you also are able to collect all of the usage data so that we actually know what people are listening to, where they're listening to it, and what they're listening to the most. And it can be powered by the same batteries that are used in flashlights or radios. And thanks to our donor support, we have been able to invest in a new version of a talking book that also includes a rechargeable battery. And a loudspeaker is critical because a loudspeaker allows the talking books to be used where people meet, where they talk, where they discuss issues, where they think about how they might want to be adopting new practices. And so we have a speaker that's loud enough for 20 or 25 people outside in a group setting to listen to. But again, thanks to our donor support, we now have a talking book that's even louder than that that's coming out. So this is all done through partnerships. We have reached 1.3 million people in 13 countries, and that hasn't been all with the staff that you see on this call, our staff in the US and in Ghana. In the other 12 countries, in particular, it's through partnerships with organizations like you see here. And I want to talk a little bit about one particular partnership, just to give you an idea of what that's like. So, CARE. We are partnering with CARE today in 4 different countries, in Ghana, Ethiopia, Bangladesh, and Haiti. And so I want to talk about Haiti. Now, all of you would remember some of the tragedies that Haiti has been through in just the last 4 months. You know, they've had a 7.1 magnitude earthquake, a presidential assassination, gang-related kidnappings, and fuel blockages. So it is more important than ever for people to be able to get access to information, and it's harder than ever for staff to go out and visit these communities in today's context. And so CARE has been using the talking book in Haiti, and here where their ideas were around using it with connecting agriculture extension agents, government experts in agriculture, with lead farmers who can share talking books with other farmers through these collectives, and also with mothers groups, and even with something CARE pioneered decades ago, village-based savings and loan associations. Now, I want to tell you what messages they have put on their talking books. And it's great because it'll give you an idea of the breadth of information. And keep in mind that all these messages you're going to see here are in just one single program. So they have messages on natural resource management, but they also do on how to store crops that after farmers harvest them, how to keep those crops from being lost and sold at the right time. They have messages on raising goats and chickens and how to do that. Now, keep in mind, every line you see here is a separate audio recording going deeply into these issues. And this is actually just a selected list. It's not everything. They cover nutrition, vitamin A, malnutrition, the diet for pregnant women. They cover breastfeeding and how men can support breastfeeding happening. COVID prevention and vaccination. Again, with Village Savings and Loan Associations, of course, there are important messages there. Dealing with the natural disasters that happen in Haiti, risk identification and mitigation, and even how an organization, how a small business or community organization can be more effective by thinking about their vision and mission and leadership. And finally, and most importantly, around gender roles, the difference between equity and equality, sexual harassment, child protection, and how to do something about these issues when they happen. This is all one program, one partnership covering these number of topics. So if you're ever wondering, what use is a talking book, and is it just for farming? Is it just for health? It's often for these topics and many, many more, but this is just from one program. So back to the device. I mentioned these features. There's one more feature that is really important, and that's the built-in microphone. And that's because that allows our partners to hear directly from the people they are trying to serve, and to listen to their ideas, and to listen to understand what the needs might be that are different than they thought, and to understand the context better. So let me show you some of these now. These are transcriptions from actual user feedback that we've had in past programs. So a partner might not realize that the problem right now is termites that are attacking their maize farms. But we also get questions. So we'll get messages from talking book listeners who are asking questions that might not have been addressed in the previous audio recordings, but they can be when the devices are updated maybe a month or two later. And then we also get messages where people are explaining the hardships, the context, the issues they go through that, again, we and our partners may not have been aware of. And so by listening, we learn these things. The last one you'll see in a partnership with UNICEF to end child marriage. We were hearing from many parents that were saying, look, we're not the ones marrying off our daughters. But as you can see in this example, it's a really practical issue of a parent saying, my daughter says she's going to school, she's going to her boyfriend, and then suddenly she ends up pregnant. We've never had to deal with this kind of issue. How do we deal with the issue of teen pregnancy? So that's the value of user feedback. Now we get hundreds and thousands of these messages. So again, thanks to our donor support, we've invested in digital tools like this one to help our partners, our local language partner staff, to listen to these messages very quickly in a browser, skip the ones that are irrelevant, and to tag information about the other ones. So they can customize their survey to address their program and take that really valuable qualitative information and turn it into quantitative and quantifiable, actionable insights. So just to wrap up the big picture here, if you're curious about how does this really work, we walk our Amplio staff walk our partners through the whole process, and that is how can they plan, prepare, and learn about what are their objectives? How are they going to measure whether improvements are happening? How are they going to train their staff to get everybody ready for that? Creating those audio recordings, which might be songs or dramas or interviews or opinion leader endorsements. And then the logistics of now you've got to bring those talking books out to the community. You just do that once, but then periodically you'll want to go back there and collect the user feedback by connecting it to that smartphone and also collecting the data. And then you have a dashboard system where you can analyze, learn from that, and then iterate and create content that people need. So that's basically the process. So over the years, we are now starting our 15th year. And you can see some of the data from our partnerships and see that the last couple of years in particular, we've really grown a lot in terms of reaching out into new countries and establishing new partnerships and impacting new people. We don't have our final 2021 data in. Not sure if it'll be quite as high as last year, where we, thanks to some of our donors, we were able to support programs around preventing COVID. So we really reached out to a lot of people last year. But you can see we've been growing quite a lot. But it's not just about growth, of course. What about the impact? These are some examples from past programs. Farmers growing 45% more crops than they did in previous year. Communities where 50% more women are sleeping under bed nets with their infants and young children than in the control communities. And a doubling of prenatal care visits. And what went along with that was a 40% increase in delivering babies in hospitals. So finally, I want to show you a couple of the user feedback messages where they're telling us not just what the problems are, the challenges, but where they're actually thanking our partners and us for what is working for them. And I want to share these with you because they're thanking you as well as our supporters. So I won't read every one of these, but you can see, again, these are just transcriptions right from user feedback messages, what people are learning and how it's making a difference for them. So nutrition is important for a pregnant woman and mother as much as it is for the baby. Farmers being able to see increases in crop yields, and just general appreciation for having access to these messages. So those are the messages that we get back from people, and I thought it was important to pass along to all of you as people who are making this happen. So thank you very much for all of your support and for your time today.